Welcome to our episode. We are going to talk about unfaithfulness in your relationship, how you can discover if there is unfaithfulness in your relationship, and definitely you need to stay tuned because you are going to learn some things in this episode that you have never thought of before. When we talk about unfaithfulness, normally what we talk about, what we think about and what we fear and dread and wonder about is my partner being unfaithful to me? And that's a real concern, and other people are going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is, hey, wait a minute, I wonder if you are being unfaithful to yourself in your relationship. That's where we're going today. So, Damaris, do you want to jump in with your first thoughts about the possibility of a person in a relationship being unfaithful to their self?
Yes, hi there. Totally. We can be unfaithful to ourselves in so many ways, and we do not realize it. It's very important to get to the point where you kind of wake up and realize how unfaithful we are to ourselves when we allow things to happen and things to happen to us from our partners or from our environment, and we allow that because we think it's normal, it's okay, and maybe we never think or never take that as being unfaithful to ourselves. Many times we allow things to happen in a relationship, and it can be a romantic relationship, at work, with your kids, with your own thoughts that can make your life miserable and unhappy, and maybe you don't know why. And the reason why is because we sometimes, or many times, we are so unfaithful to ourselves. We allow our partners to do things, to say things, things that we don't want, things that we don't like, things that we do not agree with. However, we stay in the relationship because we think that is normal, because we think we fix that later, we will figure it out later together, but it never happens. Time goes on and things get worse. And if we do not realize that, the relationship won't have a healthy, organic future.
Right. In some cases, there's the relationship can sort of evolve, and the relationship might be, not terribly abusive or dysfunctional, but just really not a life-giving relationship. But there might be a sort of a part of oneself that I'm afraid to be alone and not in a relationship, and so I'm going to stay in the relationship even though it's not life-giving to me. So that's not being faithful to oneself. Or want to stay in this relationship, because my children need two parents, so I'm going to stay in the relationship even though it's not life-giving to me. So again, it's in the internal family system, that's what we call it. There's sort of one part of the self that is taking control of the decision-making process and silencing the other part, and not in a dialogue internally, but in just a silencing of another part that says, hey, I'm actually suffering, I'm losing parts of myself each day and each week in this relationship. This other part of me says, well, you can't be alone because only losers are alone, or you can't be a single parent because that's a terrible thing to do to your kid. And there we have it. We have the beginning of unfaithfulness to the self, out of fear of being alone in some cases, out of as you described, Emily, sometimes it's sort of people pleasing. I don't want to disappoint my partner or create conflict in my relationship, so I'll just silence part of myself and go with the flow. I won't rock the boat. I'll avoid conflict. I'll keep the peace. All of those things that really and truly, they seem like sensible choices in the moment, but we don't realize at the time that it's death by a thousand cuts to the relationship, and the relationship just suffers a little bit more each day, and we end up being a little bit more unfaithful to ourselves each day.
Yes, totally. And it happens in so many people. It can be female or male. It happens a lot when people decide to be unfaithful just based on fear of what other people said, what other family members think about you, what your neighborhood and your neighbors thinks about you, and even yourself. And it's like, oh my God, I need this relationship maybe for 2 years, 3 years to fix this thing, and then I will fix this situation that I'm going through right now. And then in 2-3 years it's gone, so that relationship is going to help me to get out of these situations, whatever that might be. But then that ends up for you to be miserable, to feel miserable. And even during those 3 years, let's say, this is just an example, how miserable you are because you know that you are a place where you do not belong, where you are not happy, and you are compromising your feelings, your emotions, and you are compromising so much of yourself just for this period of time, thinking that you are not able to go through this situation, and that you have to have someone, a partner, to help you out. And then in 2 or 3 years you discover that it wasn't necessary, that you could get help and advice, support from family, friends, community, without going through this relationship that the only thing that give you is just more stress, more lack of confidence, and more lack of love for yourself.
Absolutely. One of the things that really sort of comes to mind as you're describing that is that oftentimes fear keeps us in the in the grooves, in the rut in the road, right? So we just sort of continue this track because we're afraid of stepping out of the track and taking that step. It might be staying in a job longer than that job is really good for you or profitable for you. But same thing, right? Romantic relationship, other relationship, and actually your relationship with your job might be the sort of thing where you're actually being unfaithful to yourself to stay in that position because you're afraid, because part of you is afraid of losing the security. The supposed security, but if you're in the job market in the 2020s, you know that there's actually no job that is secure. That's a myth. This really hooks back to another video that you'll find on this YouTube channel on the topic of anti-fragility. The video is called How to Have a Rich Life. And the way to have a rich life is to recognize that you are way stronger than you actually know.
Totally.
And the only way that you'll know that you're as strong as you really are is if you take risks, if you go for the uncertain, if you step out of control and safety and security and predictability and reliability and choose the option. For some of you watching this video, that's going to be submitting that letter of resignation to your boss and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to find a new job because it's time to move on because this job is not working for me anymore. For some of you watching this video, it's going to be quitting your job and entertaining that dream of being an entrepreneur and exchanging the reliable income paycheck every second week for entrepreneurship. And for others of you, it's going to be stepping out of a relationship that you, in your heart of hearts, you've recognized for years is not life-giving to you, and there is no reasonable prospect of resurrecting the relationship. I'm a great fan of resurrecting the relationship if there's an ember, But if there's no ember, then you know what, we need to call the funeral director and pronounce, or the medical examiner, and pronounce the relationship dead on arrival.
Totally.
And so for some of you, that's when you're honest with yourself, that's where you're going to be at. And if you're going to be faithful to yourself, that's where you're going to recognize you are and say, hey, you know what? I need to be true to myself and recognize that I need to move on because this relationship is not life-giving anymore. There's a bunch of different ways that this fits and might be applied to life. And since you're noticing that this is resonating with you at some level, gosh, you want to hit subscribe. You want to hit that subscribe button, don't you? And you want to hit like. That'll help other people to find this video and help other people to change their life. And hit us up with a comment, because we love to know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your application, the way this resonated with you, how this video spoke to you. And we'd love to hear what you're going to do with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, it's a pleasure to share these thoughts with you. I have been in those experiences where I didn't was faithful to myself, to my oneself, and it's so easy to get into that hole. However, there's a lot of ways to get out of that hole and have a happy life, faithful life to yourself, and be faithful to yourself. Most of all, being faithful to your own divine self.
Absolutely. Relationships come and go over life, through evolution, through people passing away. But the one constant, when you stop to think about it, the one constant person that you're going to be with for all of your days in this life is
yourself.
You better be faithful to yourself. Hey, last thing, if this material has struck a chord with you, you're probably recognizing that sort of the subtext in this whole conversation, in this video, it's really about boundaries. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about boundaries. And if this is resonating with you, check out the link below, because we offer an amazing course on boundaries. And hit the link in the comments below and sign up for the course. And it's an amazing course. It's fun, it's inspiring, it is stimulating, and it's 6 weeks long, so it's totally doable. Each week you get an installment of me or Damaris or both of us pinpointing a particular aspect of boundaries. So grab that course. You know what? It'll change your life. Again, subscribe, comment, like. See you next time.